Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, it's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive, and save it. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong.
What is up? We got a afternoon deprogram. What? An afternoon deprogram? Are you serious? Yes, I am navigating around my work schedule and trying to find a time where it's convenient for people, trying to let everybody know we're back. I still yet haven't sent out the email. Shano Vision, I may go back to Twitch. Kick, I never got anything out of, and I only can go to 5 places unless I want to pay a hell of a lot more. Maybe I'll upgrade to Kick, but I don't see myself live streaming there. Brandon Hellman, the man, the myth, the legend. Great to see you back. Thanks for the sound check. And we've also got Shano Vision, we got Brandon. We got 2 people. Well, it says we got a few more than 2, but hey, that's all right. I just want to say thank you to the 50,000 plus people that stayed subscribed. Of course, I'm not talking to hardly any of them yet because, you know, they don't even know that I'm back. But I will send out a huge email as soon as I get a chance, and we're going to find a real good place. Jason Cohn, I guess I could bring him back. I kind of say, yeah, but you know what? Maybe we should bring back Jason. I know he'd come back. I've been less than kind to him a little bit, but you know what? I'm trying to be a better man. So I'll put down Jason Cohn. Cynthia calls him Hitler Youth. That's kind of funny. Jason Kern, actually, and he does look like the poster child for Hitler Youth, and I mean that in a nice way. So let's go ahead, Dr. Duke. Yeah, Dr. Duke. Mike Sledge calls him Dr. Dookie. I probably shouldn't, but anyway, let's go ahead and jump into this. We got a great deprogram for you. This one is a fun one. This was suggested by the lovely Cynthia. And this is all about killer contestants. Why in the hell are there so many killers on game shows? And I'm not talking about killer game shows. Why are there so many killers on game shows? And why are there so many future stars on game shows? And was Ted Bundy a psyop? So without any further ado, let's jump in because I got to get back to work. So Why are there so many killers? Yes, I am, Truth Seeker Man. Glad to have you back. Why are there so many killers on game shows? There's 10 murderers at least who have appeared on game shows, plus this new lady called herself a domestic engineer. She's about to get sentenced to life because she killed some people over, they were trying to move her grandkids up north. So anyway, there's more than 10, but these are the 10 top ones. John Cooper was on a show called Bullseye. That's a British game show that was centered around dart throwing. John Cooper appeared on the game show in 1989. Before he even got on the show, he had already killed 2 people. And then he would murder within a month of being a contestant on the show. I'm guessing he didn't hit the bullseye. And then Safir Kalanak, he appeared on a Turkish game show back in 2014, and he wasn't the smartest guy. He revealed that he had killed his first wife and then also killed another lover afterwards, arguing about money. And then there's the infamous Lori Vallow. She was on the Wheel of Fortune, buying vows and whatnot. She won $17,500. She was the episode's winner. She also appeared in a Miss Texas beauty pageant. Does that remind you of Erica Kirk, anybody? And, oh, that was Arizona. My bad. And the bodies of 2 of her children were found in her husband's yard. I don't mean to laugh, but, man, this is some crazy-ish, isn't it? Edward Wayne Edwards, he was on To Tell the Truth. Some of you don't remember that one. But he's a serial killer who's confirmed to have murdered 5 people, but was suspected to have murdered at least 10. Lu Hao was on Happy League, a Chinese game show. He admitted to stabbing a man outside of a restaurant. He's kind of a lightweight on this list, but hey, he's there. Paul Curry appeared on Jeopardy, and he had killed 2 of his wives. Where are the bodies buried for 500? Wow. And then Stephen Port was on The Master Chef, and he was kind of a Dahmer type dude, because he murdered 4 men by luring them to his flat. I guess he was British. He lured them to his flat before attacking and killing them. And then Timothy Bleefnick was on The Family Feud. And he had some experience because he shot his wife 14 times. Wow. That's a waste of ammunition, isn't it? I mean, come on. I'm just riffing a little bit here. But yeah. And then Rodney Alcala was on The Dating Game. He was a serial killer and rapist convicted of 5 murders, linked to several others. Some believe that the number could have been well over 100. And he was on The Dating Game. But to me, the winner, the reigning all-time champion of serial killers on game shows, for me, the champion is Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy, who was Bachelor number 1 in 1978 on The Dating Game. Yes, after he had already been killing people, allegedly. Brando says he thinks they're humiliation rituals. I think you might be right, especially in Dukes. Is that a Freudian slip, or is that a little bit of disclosure? I don't know, but I meant Bundy. And why are there so many pre-celebrities on game shows? We talked about yesterday with the Austin thing. McConaughey, Mila Jovovich, Ben Affleck, and that crazy movie made by Peter Linklater, or Dick Linklater, sorry. Richard Linklater. I called him Dick Linklater. But anyway, celebrities that appeared on game shows before becoming household names. Meghan Markle, Deal or No Deal. She's in the same game with the royal family right now. Steve Martin, the wild and crazy guy. He was on The Dating Game as well. Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad was on The Price is Right. And when it comes to meth, just say no, The Price is never right. I'm just saying, it's a public service announcement. And believe it or not, Dead Wolf Resistance, Truth Seeker Man, Sean O'Vision, believe it or not, Lady Gaga was on something called Boiling Points. Don't remember that one. And even Kirstie Alley, no, it wasn't on a hot dog eating contest. I know that's a low blow. But come on. We got to add a little levity because the subject matter, right? Right? She was on Match Game. Match Game. So you got Steve Martin, also Andy Kaufman, Meghan Markle, Stephen Fry. I don't really know who that is, but I kind of remembered his name. John Ritter from Three is Enough. Is that what it was called? Three's Company. Three's Company. Come and knock on my door. Suzanne Summers when she was really, really hot. Remember her? How about the Joyce lady? Was she hot? I don't know. Lady Gaga. Farrah Fawcett. I never thought Farrah Fawcett was that hot. I'm like the only guy that grew up in my era that didn't have that poster. I just didn't think that. The hottest thing to me about Farrah Fawcett is she was married to the $6 million man, Lee Majors. Paul Walker, he was in all those race car movies. Vanna White. How ironic is that? Vanna White was on a game show before she became famous for, well, being on a game show. Kirstie Alley. Tom Selleck, Magnum P.I. Paul Rubens, famous for creaming the guy in front of him at a adult theater. Also, he played, what was that guy's name? Not Punky Brewster. What the hell was his name? Paul Rubens, you know. That weird guy. Somebody help me out. I don't know what the hell his name was. Yeah, and then Simon Cowell. How freaking hilarious is that? What was Paul Rubens' character? Pee-wee Herman. So, yeah. Can you believe this stuff? It's crazy. But let's talk about the dating game. Ted Bundy was on the dating game in 1978 after he'd already begun his murderous spree. And interestingly enough, you can find pictures of all these other people. I just didn't. Steve Urkel? I didn't look at any of the rest of them. I didn't paste them because I'm busy. I'm a busy guy. I got to work for a living. But anyway, Bundy had already begun his murderous spree. Ted Bundy announced himself as Bachelor number 1. He was sitting along 2 different contestants. And allegedly, he was getting, the show got some complaints from viewers that found Ted Bundy a little bit unsettling. Imagine that. So think about this, folks. Serial killers, plain old killers like this crazy bitch that just killed the people in Florida. She was on, I think it was Wheel of Fortune, which figures based on her nationality. But she said, I'm a domestic engineer, a domestic coordinator, housewife. But anyway, she killed some people because she didn't want her grandkids to move away. So a bunch of them. Thank you, AU66. So, yeah. Killers, budding stars. Brando says it's humiliation ritual. I think it might be a proving ground as well. A proving ground for, can these people think on their feet? Can they do it? Can we make them stars? Keep it between the lines. Dead Wolf, Sassafras is in the his-ow. Okay. Can we talk a little bit about Ted Bundy? If you've been with me a long, long time, you might remember this. But we're going to roll through this. I'm going to blow your mind just a little bit. I don't know if I can still be heard if I sit the microphone down. But then I feel like I got to lean forward. And, you know, I don't want to wreck my posture. So it seems like I'll probably want to hold it. Okay, yeah, I'll hold it. What the heck? Gives me something to do with my hands, right? So I stumbled across a researcher named Miles Mathis when I was researching Charlie Manson. That scenario about Charlie Manson just never set well with me. It just never seemed right to me. And some of you remember my report on his report, and that needs to be done again. We'll do that. Like Mathis himself, the recent expose that he did of the Tate LaBianca, Charlie Manson murders, he showed that the whole thing was manufactured by the intelligence agencies, FBI, CIA, DIA, ONI, all of those alphabet agencies. It caused him and me to take a fresh look at Theodore Edward Bundy, whose alleged killing spree started just 5 years after Charles Manson. Was this series of events manufactured as well, and if so, for what reason? I say yes, but I'm not here to tell you what to believe. I'm just here to hopefully to get you all to think a little bit. Mathis's first clue about Bundy's murders being fake was that just like Charles Tex Watson, Bundy supposedly fathered a child while he was on death row. Since that's impossible, we have an early indication that this whole thing is just another charade, a charade. But what really got Mathis on the right track was looking at Bundy's earlier life. And right out of the chute, Bundy had gone to the University of Washington up in Seattle to study Chinese. That's a big red flag, because almost everybody that goes to university to study Chinese and to study Russian, they are wildly, disproportionately recruited by the intelligence agencies. Bear Grown, good to see you. Bundy also worked on Nelson Rockefeller's presidential campaign in 1968. And if you've done any research, you know that Rockefeller had long been involved in intelligence. He was the president of the National Security Commission, I believe it was called, and he was a chairman of the Planning Coordination Group, which oversaw the CIA. How crooked do you got to be to oversee the CIA? Well, this is the guy that Bundy worked in the campaign for. And he was under Eisenhower, who we know is one of the greatest killers in the world. He killed 100 million civilians after Venus Latte, World War II, by starving them to death and allowing them to die of exposure in open, fenced places with nothing, not a latrine, not water, nothing. He just let them die. Later, Bundy was a spy for the Republican governor Daniel Evans of Washington State in 1972. He posed as a college student to shadow Evans's opponent, and amazingly, that's even admitted by Wikipedia. Now, when it's admitted by Wikipedia, woo, that is some kosher disclosure, as they say. Afterwards, Bundy was hired as the assistant to the state Republican Party chairman. Bundy got into law school on the recommendation of Evans, and Evans was a staunch supporter of Rockefeller, and he lost a vice presidential nomination when he refused to endorse Nixon in 1968. We have a series of red flags here indicating that Ted Bundy was already an insider and a spy from the very beginning. I'm going to move fast because I got to get back to work, but this is really good stuff. His birth and life as a child looks like a rewrite and a whitewash. Every story has 3 variations. None of them make any sense or consistent. His biography reads like poor fiction written by flunkies at Langley. It was back before AI. So who was Ted Bundy really? Or should we say, who is Ted Bundy? But by the way, Ted would be about 81, 82 now if he's not dirt napping. I don't know. Again, I'm of the opinion that it's a psyop. He didn't commit the murders and that there really were no murders. That's going to get people upset. Although I have to say that the mother of my children, I think that's much nicer to say than that bitch that left me. That was my first wife. It was a little joke. She was approached by Bundy at Lake Sammamish State Park, where he allegedly picked up some other people. So Bundy was actually out there doing the deed, but I don't think he did the deeds. Now, we have seen that the elite do like to use their own children in their manufactured events because these kids are available and they're easy to control. In most cases, Sassafras laughs, in most cases, they don't even bother to change any names. She is my ex-wife, even though she's a little more like a 2X now, but that doesn't really matter, right? Squeaky Fromm, Sharon Tate, Abigail Folger, Susan Atkins, John Phillips, Jim Morrison. Thank you, Bear Grown. Says his favorite host is back on YouTube. Who is it? Little joke. I'm going to give myself a thumbs up. Is that bad to give yourself a thumbs up? So, For an example, beyond the Tate event, we saw many children of the elite think of John Hinckley. John Hinckley Jr.'s father was a close personal friend of the Bushes. And the day that John Hinckley supposedly shot Ronald Reagan, the Bushes and the Hinckleys were having dinner. Can you believe that crap? Even that hint didn't help us until we started studying the CIA control of art in the 50s and 60s through the Congress for Cultural Freedom. And that research, Mathis stumbled across McGeorge Bundy. That was the guy's name, McGeorge Bundy, who was the National Security Advisor, CIA supervisor to Kennedy and Johnson, as in JFK and LBJ. And later he was president at the Ford Foundation. It's always the Bushes. Dead Wolf says a shovel can solve a lot of problems. It really can. It really can. A shovel and a few feet of dirt does a lot. He was only 34 when he got that appointment. That's only possible because Bundy was already in the CIA at that time, much like Barack Obama winning the presidential election at such an early age. He'd been on the Council of Foreign Relations since he was 29. He'd been in the intelligence since 1941. He joined the OSS, which was the predecessor of the CIA, right out of Yale. Man, these red flags just keep coming at you. At age 22, double 11, we talked about that yesterday, and he was born into the prominent Boston Brahmin families of Bundy. Bundy is one of the Illuminati families, one of the 13, Putnam, Lowell, etc. So McGeorge's older brother, William, was also a prominent CIA agent, also a foreign affairs advisor to Kennedy and Johnson, and he had a key role in planning the Vietnam War. Can you believe Ted Bundy's immediate family had a key role in planning the Vietnam War? Perhaps even more interesting is that after his government service, he became a historian, wrote a lot of books. His most famous book is A Tangled Web, The Making of Foreign Policy in the Nixon Presidency. William had 3 children, Michael, Christopher, and Carol. Bundy connecting to Bundy isn't really that simple. Why don't they even bother to change the names, folks? They're so confident from their past success, and they're convinced we're stupid, and, well, it's kind of hard to argue against that being true. They figure they can cover up everything. They would tell everyone that Ted was adopted. He was originally named Cowell, which is also funny. Mark that, Cowell, because that's a little joke, a little CIA joke. The CIA loves inside jokes. It's just one letter off of Lowell, Cowell, Lowell, another one of the Illuminati names. And we've just seen that McGeorge's mother was a Lowell or a Lowell, however you say it, of the famous Lowells of Boston, and she was Ted's grandmother, or Nana, as some say. They also hid George's children, McGeorge's children. None of them are listed on Wikipedia. His family isn't even mentioned. You'd think he was a gay bachelor, or just gay, or just a bachelor. We had to go to old obituaries to find out that McGeorge had 4 sons, Stephen, Andrew, William, James. It's like trying to find the birth certificates of the Kirk children. Don't exist. Isn't that just crazy? Crazy. How about a school picture? Nope. No school pictures of the Kirk children. How about a report card? Nope. Nothing. But McGeorge did, in fact, have 4 sons, Stephen, Andrew, William, and James. If we do a web search on those names, we find convincing pictures of Stephen, Andrew, and James. And Mathis is he does portraits for rich people, so he's an expert on photo recognition. He says none of them are Ted. But, interestingly, there's no pictures of William. Nada. Was he less well known? Was there a 5th brother? This will have to be determined by future research. And yeah, we're about to do it. The fact that they hid McGeorge's children and his early photographs leads us to suspect that Ted is his son. No baptism records, which is funny for a super-duper Christian that invested heavily in an alcohol company and made millions and millions of dollars from it, but says he doesn't drink alcohol. He doesn't drink it. He just sells it. Probably still. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Hey, Philip McTeer, nice to see you. Philip R. McTeer. So, the genealogy's been changed. There's no paperwork, just like with the Kirks. So, there's no uncovered documents. They probably don't even exist, like the Kirks. So, we'll just look at facial comparisons. That is Mathis's specialty. We're going to look at those and do some photo analysis. To get started, we should ask if Ted is even the right age to be a son of McGeorge or William, and indeed he is. William was born in 1917, McGeorge 1919, Ted born in 1946 when George was 27, a very probable time for a first son. McGeorge didn't marry until 1950, so it's possible that Ted was, how shall we say, illegitimate, a bastard, an oops. Yes, you can email me. Gotham like in Batman, ltd@gmail.com. Somebody help a brother out and put that in the chat. I'm holding a microphone, so I can't do it. It's also possible they just changed the dates. This plays into Ted's faked bio. Since in that bio, Ted and his biographers tell several stories about finding a birth certificate or being shown one by a cousin. It's supposed to have been discovered that his grandparents weren't his real parents, that his grandma was his sister who was really his mother, or his sister was his mother. Yeah, it's crazy, man. This looks like MK Ultra up one side, down the other. Thank you, Brando. Sub-Zero, nice to see you. That was always beyond belief. And now, Daniel Vegas. Now we see a more likely history for Ted. He may have indeed been a bastard, but he was William or McGeorge's bastard, not the bastard of some Air Force veteran named Lloyd Marshall. That name is also a CIA joke, since the CIA was founded as an introduction to the Marshall Plan in 1947. Also, Marshall would be Secretary of State in 47, then Secretary of Defense. It's a joke. They love the jokes. They love to laugh at us. They just do. Ted was said to have been born in 46 when the OSS CIA was already forming the Marshall Plan. It's also interesting that Ted was said to have been born in Vermont, although later he's on the West Coast. So it's just crazy, crazy stuff. So here we go. Let's look at some photos. This is admittedly speculative. It's circumstantial. But let's look at the photos of the three men. Here's the three dudes in question. Here's Ted down here. I mean, just at first glance, striking similarities to these two dudes, especially in this picture. I mean, look at the mouths. I mean, it looks like Ted could definitely be a son of these dudes, either of these dudes. The first two people are William Bundy over here. The first two are William Bundy. The last are Ted. We couldn't find any photos of McGeorge as a young man. Further research, all of them turn out to be William. Curious that we can't find any pictures to compare of McGeorge as a young man. He probably looked even more like Ted than William. But at any rate, Mathis is a professional portrait painter hired by wealthy people to reproduce their likenesses or the likenesses of their children. So he can tell you with expert clarity that the match is very, very close. If not for the differences in the upper lip, these people could be clones in Mathis's opinion. I concur with that. Same eyebrows, same jawline, exact same head shape, exact same forehead, bordering on a 5 head, same eye-to-mouth ratio, same neck size, ears, and nearly the same noses. William tends to squint, probably because of the glasses, while Ted tends to open his eyes really wide, but they're still the same width. They still tilt up the same, and Ted was likely instructed to open his eyes wide to make him look crazy, the same direction they would give to Charlie Manson as well. Ted and William even have the same color hair and parted on the same side. You can see Ted's natural hair part here in these pictures. They parted on the wrong side here to make it look weird because, they're trying to throw people off. Anyone's hair will do that when they part it the opposite of the way it naturally grows. Also, William, McGeorge, and Ted were the same height, 5'9" to 5'10", same weight, same build. Another indicator is that all three men, blue eyes with brown hair, which is not that common in the United States. The odds that both men would share these mixed traits, brown hair, blue eyes, 1 in 100. However, it was very common in the Bundy family. Ted and William even have the same color hair and parted on the same side. It matches his father's. They're both 5'9", 5'10". Okay. The first pick here is McGeorge at age 45. Looked very much like William, except that McGeorge's hairline is even further receded. That makes him appear to have a larger forehead, and that kind of messes up the look at first. That's why we probably don't see pictures of McGeorge in his 20s or 30s, but if you notice the mouth and lips, it's much closer with McGeorge and Ted than with William and Ted. Virtually the same, and same eyes, again, same hair. William's lips turned down a little bit at the corners, but McGeorge and Ted both have that perfect Cupid's bow, which is very DNA specific. So they both have the perfect Cupid's bow, and their mouths are nearly exactly the same in length, width, and curvature. So I'm with Mathis. That's his dad. So we can run through some rough numbers on these traits. The odds that two unrelated men would match weight, height, hair color, and eyes, jaw lines, build, face shape, nose length, mouth width, and same last name are like 1 in 100,000. And with the same last name, they're 1 in about 10 million. Stated another way, the probability that two men with the same last name who look this much alike, very, very likely that they are related. Now, when you calculate these odds, the more you study, the more you'll find that domestic terror and murder are also family affairs. Just Frank, what's up, brother? Good to see you. In calculating these odds, we have to take into account the closeness of each match. The eyes and jawline tell us all we need to know. I mean, look at those eyes. Look at those eyes. Look at those jaw lines. I mean, come on, man. If I had had more time, I would have superimposed them. I don't. For proof that would hold up in court, of course, we'd have to have documents or DNA. But hell, we don't even have that on the Kirks. They've all been shredded, switched out. And it's unlikely that Ted will come out of hiding for a blood test. So for now, this is what Mathis offers. But you know what? I had to take it a little deeper. Sometimes I do this. Things just come to me. I'm not sure why. But as I saw this picture here, I'm like, bow tie? Didn't Ted show up with a bow tie? Remember how I told you they love their little jokes? Don't overlook the bow tie. They love to play their jokes. And the bow tie is an excellent sight gag. And then I looked at it again, folks, and I said, WTF, mate? It's the same damn tie. Or awfully damn close. It's blatant once you see it. They're telling us, this is my daddy. If you got eyes to see, you do. If you got ears to hear, you do. And if you don't, you don't. And I ain't got no time. Now, somebody, not any of the people in the chat, but some people would say, Jeff, it can't be. These people wouldn't allow the famous Bundy name to be dragged through the mud on purpose. The Lowells, the Putnams, they wouldn't allow it. The Boston Brahmins wouldn't wish for a famous serial killer to be linked to their names. And they especially wouldn't make it happen. Anyone who says that is, at the risk of being offensive, rather childish. The truth is, everyone in the know, from my analysis and Mathis's analysis, already knows that Ted was used for this program, and they find it funny. They love laughing at you because You're so simple, you still believe that a guy died on Friday, rose on Sunday, and he was in the bed dead 3 days and 3 nights. That math don't math. Some of you are so silly you think that Jesus, born a Jew, lived a Jew, died a Jew, supposedly rose like a Jew, 66 books written by Jews, 12 disciples, all Jews. You say he wasn't a Jew. I mean, some people you just can't. You just can't deal with them, right? It's a point of honor to these people to fool you and to be front and center in a conspiracy that fools you. It's just what they like to do. They get off on it. And as for what the rest of us know or think, they couldn't possibly care less. That's why they expend so little energy and time trying to make these scenarios airtight. They know that neatness doesn't count. They know that most of us are stupid and can be fooled by a sloppy magician's trick. They know that most of us won't look. Math is hard, says Dead Wolf, and it's harder if you're stupid. It is. They know that most of us don't care if a chair falls through a table. They know that most of us won't notice if a wound on somebody's neck doesn't move when the wound moves. They know that most people won't notice that spouting blood doesn't get on the white T-shirt, doesn't get on any of the people that carry them, doesn't get on the white shoes. They don't notice that somebody dabbing their eyes with perfect makeup ain't really crying. Like the great American philosopher Forrest Gump, not me, but he said stupid is as stupid does. And of course, Ron White, the great American philosopher, said, you can't fix stupid. They only need to fool about 95%. If a few fish like us swim out of the net, well, they don't listen to us anyway. But baby, we're back on YouTube. And by the way, we're going to be very careful. Thank you, Her Majesty. We're going to be very careful. We're going to be very cognizant. We're not going to use trigger words. And if I take you out of the chat because you use one, don't get mad at me. We've got to protect this because as my friend Dr. Longo from Old World, Florida said, YouTube is to be used and to be used PG-13-ish because it has a massive reach. And I know I look a little weird when I sit back, but I'm just kind of chilling with the home folks, if that's all right with you. So they just don't give a damn. Think of it this way. If Sherlock Holmes were real and alive now, do you honestly think the wealthy families or the CIA would have anything to fear from him? Nope. 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 Just Frank says it wouldn't matter if there was film footage or witnesses for Kirk. It was done for a reason, whether real or fiction. I agree. Daniel says he belongs here. We agree with you. No one's going to hire Sherlock Holmes, and as long as no one hires him, any crime he solves will be nothing more than an amusing novella. For it to go beyond literature, the police or courts would have to get involved, and that ain't happening. The police and courts have no interest in pursuing wealthy families or the government agencies. The richest man I ever met outside of Donald Trump told me, Jeff, you get the justice you can afford. And it's true. When only wealthy families fight one another, that's the only time that things happen, but that isn't what we have here. What we have here is a wealthy family controlling the greater society, and those families have closed all avenues of resistance against them, the courts, the police, the media, the Congress, the legal system, and so on. All these institutions are really defunct in reality. So why would intelligence be interested in faking a serial killer? Well, at the time that they were busy faking serial killers, if you notice, serial killers have kind of gone away. We don't really deal with them much anymore. And to think, this just came to me, during the time that we had all these supposedly real serial killers, we also had the great serial killers of the cinema like Dr. Hannibal Lecter and people of that nature, because it was definitely a MK Ultra, intelligentsia, PSYOP-driven narrative. And it's all about, thank you, Just Frank, it was all about creating instability and fear. This was one of the prime goals of intelligence back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And it still is. In the 1960s, the FBI had COINTELPRO. The CIA had Project Chaos. And both programs partially are declassified now because we know from this partial declassification that the directives of each program was destabilization. And they were trying to destabilize society in general. And that's necessary to maintain control. And it's interesting, even though we talk very, very carefully and we tread very, very lightly on this subject, because they have been pushing this fear, they've been pushing this instability, they've been pushing this destabilization, especially since the end of World War II. It's almost like people that knew something could figure something out by the events of World War II. But we know that people, even in the truther movement, they'll investigate the Fed, they'll investigate government, they'll investigate finance, they'll investigate schools, they'll investigate history, they'll investigate the Titanic, they'll investigate 9/11, they'll investigate that Hooker Sandy, they'll investigate Vegas, they'll investigate everything except for the Bible and World War II. We can't investigate those things. It matters, Frank, but what matters most, says AU66, is how it's being used against the public. They're using these fabricated events as attention getters. They want our attention to direct our attention away. Agreed. And they also want people in anxiety. They want people in fear. And this anxiety and this fear and this hopelessness drives people to the fear and guilt, Judeo-Christian, blood magic, mind control matrix, and causes people not to take the time to fight through to discover their own divinity, sovereignty, and freedom. Cynthia is one of the most based and intelligent and balanced people I know, and she was a wreck for 2 weeks after that Kirk event. Frank says he thinks somebody else is reading too much into it. It's more about paving a road for more control and laughing at us at the same time. I mispronounced Bible again, sorry. Thanks, Truman77. Nice to see you here. I like a little give and take in the chat room. And remember, you always have my great support. You've got the right to be wrong. It's a joke. Well, kind of, sort of, in a way. Yeah. I'm kind of getting my Jimmy Swaggart on with the microphone again. But I had a big fancy microphone. It broke. I don't really want to invest the hundo in another one. I'll just go old school, because I am old. Right? I'm old. So I'll just walk around with the mic like this. Okay, so the Red Scare in the 1950s was part of that fear. But by the 1960s, the government had other problems to deal with, like the Vietnam War. Communism had been destroyed, so they needed a different way to create general fear. One of the ways they decided to do it was with manufactured boogeymen of the Manson Bundy type. Now, Charlie Manson's boogeyman, why isn't there 2 O's in boogeyman? It looks like bogeyman to me, but it's not bogeyman, it's boogeyman. Where's the other O? It bothers me. There's supposed to be another O. Who stole the O? Manson's bogeyman was created as a hippie. He's just an old hippie and he don't give a damn. Anyway, he was created as a hippie in order to destroy the hippie movement, which was incredibly successful, right? But by 1975, the hippie movement was also dead. They're just trying real hard to adjust. How does that go? He's an old hippie and he don't know what to do. Should he hang on to the old or should he grab on to the new? He's an old hippie. And I forgot the next line, but he's just trying real hard to adjust. Daniel in Vegas says, what's your take on who killed Kirk? I would ask you, what proof do you have that Kirk is dead? And we'll have David Weiss on pretty soon, Flat Earth Dave. We might just touch on that. He says, I speak of all the things that you research. Well, good. That's because you're obviously a very brilliant man if you're researching the same things that I am. Okay. But by 1975, the hippie movement was dead. The boogeyman can no longer be of that mold, wasn't scaring anybody. So then they decided it was time to demonize the good-looking white guys. And I take exception with that. I sort of resemble that remark. Cynthia thinks I resemble that remark, good-looking white guy. Why would they want to demonize good-looking white guys? Several reasons. First of all, the charismatic, college-educated white guy was in the 70s and still is today the most dangerous person in the eyes of intelligence at that time. And you got to remember back in 1975 when it was still okay to be white and Coke wasn't saying be less white and they didn't have, all this anti-white movement and stuff. When it was still okay to be a white guy, we were really the most powerful people there, and we still are today. We just got to remind ourselves of that. But the good-looking white guy had been the biggest thorn in the side of the cabal. We still are during the hippie movement and the war protest movement. We had been the high-profile speakers with the most bravery, the most tenacity, the greatest ability to sway a crowd, and we still are. Why do you think I'm still around after all these years? They try to shut me down, shadow ban me, but baby, here I am. I'm still here. And we're getting better and better and better and better. And there's 33 watching, it says to me right now on YouTube. How about that? In the midst of a conspiracy. Therefore, intelligence wanted to recruit all the charismatic white guys they could into their agencies and then hogtie the rest. Intelligence has always wished to create as much sexual I can't even say that. Intelligence also wished to create as much sexual dysfunction as they could because they found it helped in all areas. The dissatisfied, sexually dissatisfied, buy more drugs, more liquor, more guns, more magazines. Well, you got to buy magazines for your guns. Joke. Watched more TV, and were generally easier to propagandize on all issues. Plus, when you target and bring down the good-looking white guys, that really becomes problematic for women. If intelligence could make women fear all men, especially the good-looking ones, they would immediately create huge levels of sexual dissatisfaction, and I can assure you that the lovely Cynthia has no such affliction. I might after that comment, but these women would then watch their soap operas, read pulp romances with Fabio Pre-Goose on the cover, join feminist groups where they could be further propagandized. They would suffer from 1,000 forms of anxiety and all the mental and physical effects of that anxiety, which would require 1,000,000 forms of drugging and therapy and legal and illegal. And then they'd all get homosexual best friends. And as the women go, so do the men. And if the heterosexual women could be driven nuts, sometimes it's a short trip, but then the heterosexual men would be taken down with them and not in a good way. The sexual relationship is like that. If you destroy one half of it, the other half falls as well. Yes, women's liberation obviously wasn't, and it was a big, huge, awful mistake. So who is Ted Bundy? Of course, this is still the program. It made Oprah rich. It fills half the hospitals. It seeds the pharmaceutical industry. It funds the porn industry, Hollywood, cosmetic industry, radical feminism. women's studies, men's studies, postmodern art, Afrocentric studies, 1,000 worthless TV channels. Thank you, Sub-Zero Carry. If you or the CIA wonders why we're researching these things like fiends, it's because we know that lives have been ruined by these programs. My life has kind of been ruined by these programs. I'm working for a living now. When I was doing this for a living, I know it was better when I was doing this, maybe someday, but now we're working. The heterosexual male population, and thankfully I don't deal with this anymore. I think Brandon's still out there, many of you. The heterosexual male population that's been forced to try to date these women who've been brought up on a constant fare of planted stories of the Manson Bundy type. I'm sure some of you, like Mr. Mathis, can tell stories of specific instances where real women would mention Manson or Bundy or one of the other mainstream figments of imagination as a source of their anxieties, and it continues to this day with the manufactured events that we see in the papers daily, many of them aimed directly at young women. But don't worry, here comes Tammy Faye Baker, Jan Crouch #2, Erica Kirk, and she's going to save the day for you ladies. The government's been manufacturing tragedies year by year for decades. Now we're up to several a month just to keep the patients properly traumatized. It used to be that one fake serial killer every couple of years would do the job. But as in everything else, the patient develops a tolerance. After 9/11, the audience became more difficult to startle. In addition to your daily dose of shootings, rapes, suicides, crashes, molestations, many of them manufactured for your viewing pleasure by the intelligence agencies, you're now privy to at least one mass shooting or bombing every 2 or 3 months. Brandon's married to a based woman? Wow. Good job, Brando. I guess it's been a minute since we talked. They found out that the serial killer story takes too long to unwind, so they ditched that. You don't get many serial killers anymore. It's mass shootings instead, since they all happen at once. And let's face it, the American public no longer has the attention span required to follow a serial killer. Please think about that for a second while I take a drink of hot tea, or relatively hot. The American public no longer has the attention span required to follow a serial killer. Tell me that wasn't a good-looking white guy. Ted Bundy. Don't you think it's convenient that crazy murderers decided to quit doing the serial thing and just go in for the mass thing instead? So nice of them to change with the times, scripting their madness to fit the demands of the media. So as Ted Bundy goes, so goes Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Kaczynski, David Berkowitz, Richard Ramirez, Adam Lanza, James Holmes, Anders Breivik, and most of the other high-profile murderers. Is Sub-Zero Carry the one that's married to Brando? I'm just trying to interpret through the chat. Hope I'm not breaking any secrets. Pardon me. Hairball. So that's about all the time I got. Tomorrow night I'm supposed to bring you the second part of our Are We Living in a Simulation? And I might do it tomorrow night. I might do it tomorrow afternoon like this. It just depends. We got a little bit better numbers here during the day than we get during the night, but I know we got to let people find us. So just keep watching. Just keep watching my YouTube channel here. Just keep watching the YouTube channel. And I always put on the post when I'm going to go live. But also, if you would, come over and subscribe, follow, whatever the hell it is, to my X channel. So here's my X channel right here. I am Real Gospel Truth. Why? Nope, it's not. Okay. Real Gospel Truth. Before Christianity, gospel, which is a Greek word, meant announcing a heathen victory or triumph. It was appropriated by the slimy Christians to mean specifically the message of the Jesus character. As you can see, we're live right here, but we had 85,000 subscribers. It was so shadow banned that I just said the heck with it. So, this is me here. You'll always see me announcing that I'm going live. Look at this, 1980s girls. Do you remember how nice that is? Not covered in tattoos, not fat, not on their phones, just being girls. Boy, them was the days. That just reminds me of my days in Seminole, Florida. But I'll always announce here so you can change. We did this one yesterday, Days Confused and MK Ultra. So make sure you check that out. So that's where you can find me. That's where you can find out when we're going to be deprogramming. Thanks to Deplorable Jim and Braun Looker for subscribing to me over here. Sub-Zero is single, in case anybody was wondering. Thanks. So I want to thank you all for being a part of this deprogram today. A little afternoon delight. Sky rockets in flight. Afternoon delight. Speaking of the 80s, that might even have been the 70s. I can't hit that note. Sorry, I have testicles, but, it's okay. So we won't go to the phones because I got to get back on the phone. Got to go back to work. Evil Zombie Toe, what's up? What's up? Get you some chicken. Ooh, that sounds good. I'm a little bit hungry. Do I got time? Maybe. All right, so as I leave you, remember, you are not born with original sin. You've got the spark of the divine within. Thank you, Burn One. You're divine, you're sovereign, you're free. Please think about that before you turn your back on your ancestors, before you turn your back on your gods, your goddesses, before you turn your back on your people and go on bended knee to somebody else's savior. Remember who you are, protect who you are, because you're the last generation of real humans, and it's time for us to optimize ourselves. Thank you for subscribing. I appreciate it. I don't know if you've noticed, but we're winning. The last battalion in this great culture war will be ours. Remember who you are and listen to this awesome song as we go out. I salute you for being here seeking after truth. What did Ron Burgundy say? Stay classy, San Diego. Stay classy. Oh, did he talk about Afternoon Delight? It's been a long time since I saw that movie. All right, folks. I salute you for being here seeking after truth. I appreciate you all very, very much.
Retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.